The wind carried her words like a desperate prayer across the empty desert road, words so heavy they seemed to stop time itself. "Save my child," the Apache widow whispered, her voice breaking, "and I will reward you with myself." The retired cowboy froze, knowing that whatever choice he made in the next few seconds would change all their lives forever. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to Moments of Love and leave a like and comment if this story touches your heart. The sun was sinking low, painting the land in shades of golden dust, when Thomas Reed guided his old pickup along the familiar road near his ranch. Retirement had slowed his steps, but not his heart. He'd lived alone since his wife passed years ago, finding peace in quiet mornings, worn leather boots, and the simple rhythm of caring for animals that never asked questions. He wasn't looking for trouble that evening, just the comfort of home. That was when he saw her. She stood by the roadside, thin and trembling, clutching a small bundle to her chest. Her dark hair was tangled by the wind, her clothes worn and dusty, and her eyes held a fear so raw it made Thomas instinctively press the brakes. Years of ranch life had taught him caution, but something deeper than caution, something human, forced him to stop. As he stepped out, he realized the bundle was a child. A little boy no older than 4. Burning with fever, his breathing shallow and uneven. The woman's hand shook as she held him, as if she feared he might slip away at any moment. "My name is Alara," she said softly, tears streaking down her cheeks. "This is my son Nico. He's been sick for 2 days. I walked until my legs gave out." Please, Thomas had seen sickness before. Too much of it. He knelt gently, touching the child's forehead, and his face tightened with concern. The boy needed help fast, real help. "A doctor, medicine. I don't have money," Alara continued, her voice dropping to a whisper, filled with shame. "I have nothing left, but if you save him, I will give you myself." "That's all I have." The words hit Thomas like a slap. Not because they tempted him, but because they broke his heart. He straightened slowly, meeting her eyes. In that moment, he didn't see a bargain. He saw a mother cornered by despair, willing to erase herself if it meant her child could live. "Stop," he said gently but firmly. "Don't say that again." Alara flinched, bracing for anger or rejection. Instead, Thomas shrugged off his jacket and wrapped it around the trembling child. "No one is buying anyone here," he continued. "I'm helping because it's the right thing to do." Her knees buckled as relief and exhaustion finally overtook her. Thomas caught her before she fell, steadying her like one might steady a wounded bird. He carried the boy to the truck, helped Alara inside, and drove faster than he had in years. The clinic was small and understaffed, but the nurse took one look at Nico and rushed him back. Hours passed like years. Alara sat rigid in a plastic chair, hands clenched in prayer. Thomas sat beside her in silence, offering a cup of water, a quiet presence. Nothing more when the doctor finally emerged. His tired smile felt like sunrise after a long night. "He'll be okay," he said. "Severe dehydration and infection, but you brought him in just in time." Alara broke down, sobbing into her hands, the sound raw and unrestrained. Thomas felt his own eyes burn. He didn't try to stop her tears. Some tears needed to fall that night. Thomas took them to his ranch. Alara hesitated at first, pride and fear warring within her. But he insisted the guest room hadn't been used in years yet. It felt right to see light on there again. Days turned into weeks. Nico recovered quickly, laughter returning to the house, like music Thomas had forgotten he missed. Alara helped around the ranch, cooking meals, tending the garden, always trying to repay a debt Thomas never acknowledged. One evening, as the sky blushed purple, Alara finally spoke the words that had been weighing on her heart. I meant what I said, she confessed quietly that night on the road. I was ready to give up everything because I thought that was the only way my son could live. Thomas stared out at the horizon for a long moment before answering. I lost my wife because I couldn't save her, he said softly. Cancer doesn't bargain, it just takes. For a long time, I thought kindness was pointless because it couldn't change that. But you reminded me something else matters too. He turned to her eyes steady. Your worth was never something to trade. And love, real love, never comes from desperation. Alara nodded, tears shimmering again. But this time they weren't from fear. They were from being seen. As seasons changed, so did their lives. Alara found work in a nearby town, determined to stand on her own. Thomas helped watch Nico, teaching him how to feed horses, how to listen to the wind, how to be gentle in a hard world. What grew between Thomas and Alara wasn't rushed or claimed. It unfolded quietly, built on shared mornings. Shared meals, shared silences. Trust came first, friendship followed. And somewhere in between, something deeper took root. The night Thomas realized he was afraid again. It wasn't of loneliness or loss, but of hope. Hope had a way of reopening old wounds. And he had spent years stitching it shut. Yet there it was, sitting across from him at the small wooden table, laughing softly as Nico tried to spoon cereal without spilling it. Alara's laughter wasn't loud. It was careful, as if she still didn't fully trust happiness that made it feel real. After breakfast, Alara insisted on walking into town alone. She wanted people to see her not as someone rescued, but as someone standing on her own feet. Thomas watched her go, Nico waving from the porch, and felt something twist in his chest. Not possession, not fear of losing her. Something quieter, respect. The town wasn't unkind, but it was cautious. Whispers followed Alara at first. An Apache widow living with an older rancher. Raised eyebrows stirred assumptions. Thomas heard them too, but he never confronted anyone. He'd learned long ago that dignity didn't need defending with fists or words. It defended itself with consistency. Weeks passed, Alara earned her pay honestly, sewing, cleaning, helping at the diner when needed. Each evening she returned tired but proud, and Thomas made sure dinner was waiting. Sometimes they talked late into the night. Sometimes they didn't, silence when shared stopped being empty. One afternoon, Thomas collapsed in the barn. It wasn't dramatic, no loud crash. Just a slow sinking to the hay-covered floor, as his heart struggled under a pain he tried to ignore. By the time Alara found him, his face was pale, his breath shallow. This time it was her turn to panic. She drove like the wind, Nico in the back seat praying in words too young to be polished, but too sincere to be ignored. At the hospital, doctors spoke of exhaustion, untreated heart strain, years of pushing through pain without complaint. You're not as young as you used to be, one, doctor said gently. Thomas smiled weakly. I know Alara didn't smile. She held his hand through the night, refusing to leave when he finally woke fully. The first thing he saw was her asleep beside him, head resting near his arm, fingers still curled around his. In that moment, Thomas understood something important. Kindness wasn't a one-time act. It was a circle, and it always came back around. Recovery was slow. Thomas hated needing help. But Alara never made him feel small. She didn't thank him endlessly or remind him of what he'd done. She simply showed up every day. Every task, every quiet moment. One evening, as they sat watching the sun dip behind the hills, Alara spoke again of that first night. I thought I had nothing, she said. But I had my son, and now I have something else too. Thomas didn't interrupt. I don't want to owe you. She continued, I want to choose you freely if you want that. Thomas felt his throat tighten. He took a long breath, the kind that steadied. Shaking hands, "I don't want to be your rescue," he said softly. "I want to be your partner." She nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. And for the first time, she didn't wipe them away. They didn't rush into promises. Life had taught them both that fragile things needed patience. But slowly, naturally, love took shape, not the desperate kind born of fear, but the steady kind built from trust. Nico noticed first one night as Thomas tucked him in. The boy looked up with serious eyes. "You're not lonely anymore," he said. Thomas swallowed. "Neither are you." Months later, on a quiet morning with birdsong in the air, Alara and Thomas stood by the old oak near the house. There was no crowd, no music. Just the wind, the land, and Nico holding both their hands. Their vows were simple, no grand speeches. Just promises to stay kind when things got hard. To choose honesty over pride. To never turn love into a debt. Years passed, the ranch changed.